Let's finish discussing this chapter by talking about both the systems request and conducting feasibility analyses in this one last video. Now, if you've read chapter 1, you'll note that they elaborate on this systems request using an example of a fictitious company called TuneSource. We're not going to pursue that now. We will pursue the TuneSource case study when they get into UML modeling. There's a lot of good examples of UML modeling for the TuneSource case study that appear later in the textbook. But right now, we won't use that material. Now, there's not a whole lot to say about the systems request, actually. The systems request is a document put together, presumably by the project sponsor, that justifies, validates the business needs for the system. It is a proposal to develop an information system for the organization, and as such, it must elaborate on the benefits to the organization if they actually undertake this information system development project. So some of the things they might talk about would be the system's expected value, return on investment for the organization, maybe strategic value, strategic alignment. It doesn't have to be strictly an economic benefit. Achieve a competitive advantage over your rivals. Anything that helps to sell the system. Now, this textbook makes kind of a big deal out of feasibility analysis, actually feasibility analyses, as part of the system proposal. In fact, they talk about technical feasibility, economic feasibility, organizational feasibility. I really would relegate this to a back burner. I worked in this field myself for almost a decade. Formal feasibility analyses are rarely done, and if they are done, there's a very large margin of error associated with them. Let me explain what I mean. Now, typically, the feasibility analysis is part of the justification to build a business case for the project. And as I mentioned, it could be technical feasibility, economic, or organizational feasibility. In my experience, this is not done that often. Now, I don't mean to suggest that there should be no consideration to whether we have the technical wherewithal to actually build it. If we don't have the in-house talent, technical talent, to build the system, perhaps we can outsource it. But some questions that have to be asked, but perhaps not in a formal document. Have we used this technology before? Are we familiar with it? What's the size of the project in terms of the required staffing levels? Recall, if we build the system ourselves in-house, and we don't have to, we could build in-house, we can outsource, or we can buy something off the shelf. But if we build something in-house, we're going to have to displace people, take people with particular skills working on other projects in the company and place them on this project. Economic feasibility, according to these authors, refers to should we build it. This is where it gets a bit murky. Identifying the costs and benefits, assigning values to costs and benefits, determining cash flow. I can assert from experience that trying to quantify from a particular dollar perspective, that is doing perhaps a 5-year cash outlay and a net present value, factoring in the expenses of building the project, the information system, rolling back the benefits when we start to see economic benefits. There's a large margin of error involved in this, and in my opinion, the trustworthiness is questionable, especially in out years. So the text lays out some of these costs, and these are costs. But trying to do a formal and strictly accurate cost-benefit analysis over a 5-year horizon is difficult. And I would suggest that if such a thing is done, it should be looked at carefully and with a questionable eye. Organizational feasibility. If we build it, will they come? Well, and of course what this means is if we build it, will the users accept it? And will the users use it? That's what the authors mean by will they come. Preferably, an information system, an organizational information system, achieves some sort of strategic alignment. That is, the project goals, the things that the information system will do, will enable and help the company achieve its business strategy. So, summing it up, feasibility analysis is meant to arrive at some sort of objective and subjective assessment of whether it will work or not. Much of this is an art, and the success really depends on having some individuals with the insight into the nature of their industry and into the nature of their competition and into what their own company's strengths are to make a subjective assessment of whether the system, if built properly, will work and will help the company achieve its strategic vision.